Hello everyone and welcome to the Pop That Mama podcast. In this episode we have Dr. Tuesday on with us to talk about how social media impacts our experience of becoming a mother. But before we begin, a quick word from our partners. One of the biggest purchases you're going to make in pregnancy is a buggy. It can feel really overwhelming with all of the choices out there. I've been there as a first-time mum being like, which buggy should I actually choose? That's where Bugaboo comes in. Parents around the world are obsessed with their innovative, family-friendly products. And you know what, guys? So am I. I'm actually really excited to have Bugaboo as our sponsor because I am the biggest Bugaboo fan ever. Like, I literally recommend them to everyone who will listen. Everything is designed to be long-lasting, comfortable, and easy to use. I went with Bugaboo with both of my girls, and honestly, it was the best decision. If you didn't know already, I'm going to be needing a double buggy soon. I couldn't be more excited about having another little one. And luckily, I'm not going to have to stress about what pushchair to get because I know what I'm getting, the Bugaboo Donkey 5. It's the incredible buggy for growing families, or if you just need extra storage. So the brilliant thing about it is it switches from a single to a double so easily with just a few clicks. And I love that the little ones are next to each other because they can see each other and actually experience the world together. So cute. Even though it's a double buggy, it's still really easy to steer and compact, fitting through a standard doorway or a lift. So now that the buggy's sorted, I'm going to be focusing all of my time on birth prep and enjoying these last few months as a family of 4. If you're in the market for a pushchair, use the link in the show notes or visit the Bugaboo website to find out more. Their whole range is designed with parents and growing families in mind. Dr. Tuesday, it is so lovely to have you on the podcast. Why don't you start by sharing a little bit about who you are and what makes you passionate about this subject?
Thank you so much for having me. It's so lovely to be here. I am a psychologist. I'm a mum of 3 and I feel really passionate as someone who's been through that new motherhood journey 3 times, 3 very different experiences. I feel really passionate about kind of lifting the veil on the messy, imperfect realities of that time. You know, it's a period of deep personal transition. And I think we don't see enough of the kind of the messiness of that, the kind of learning process of that. It's not a linear journey. You don't just have a baby and suddenly you've mastered motherhood and you know exactly what you're doing and, you know, how you're going to look after this baby and who you want to be as a mom. Like, there's so much up in the air for a long time, I think, until it kind of slowly and gradually lands in your body, in your life. And I feel really passionate about holding space for mums in that transitional space because it can feel a lot like being lost. It can feel a lot like being completely unanchored and untethered in that kind of messy middle transitional period of their lives because it can be so unsettling. I don't know if that's your experience as well.
Oh my gosh, so unsettling. I just remember thinking, why didn't anyone tell me this? And then also, am I the only one? Because no one briefed me on what a crazy experience this is going to be and how I feel so different. I don't feel like me anymore. And I actually remember Googling things like don't feel like me anymore, feel homesickness, like just all these things. And then I came across the word matrescence. And when I read this short article, I think it was on the New York Times or something, I just felt so seen. Because this very short article explained exactly what I was going through, this huge identity crisis, this feeling like I wanted to be with my baby all the time, but also I didn't, the ambivalence of new motherhood, which when you don't have words or you haven't got a reference point for it, it can feel really isolating and you can actually start to think something's wrong with you because everyone else is portraying a perfect outward picture.
Completely. And I think like what you've just hit on, we have no reference point. All we've really got are 2 ends of a spectrum. We see the perfect. That's the end that we tend to see on social media. And then we have this idea because we're asked all the time, how's your mental health? How are you feeling? Look out for the signs and symptoms of depression and all of the more difficult mental health struggles. We've got these two kind of extremes in our head. And there's this whole spectrum in the middle of like the ambivalence, of the confusion, of the, where do I really fit and who can I relate to and see myself in? You don't see yourself in your own life. It's kind of like an out of body, like it doesn't make sense anymore. Like, where do I fit? And it's so, so unnerving.
Also, we aren't learning about motherhood through osmosis of being with other mothers in a community where you would simply observe. You would observe mothering roles and what it means to be a mum, and you would just pick up on these things. Whereas now, especially in the modern society, we are usually alone, potentially in a small apartment where your husband or whoever your partner is out for long periods in the day, and you are just with this baby. And social media, you have your phone, which you're flicking through, and obviously the algorithm knows when you're pregnant, but also knows when you shift towards motherhood. The amount of people that follow me and say, as soon as I had my baby, you stopped popping up on my feed, and new, reels about motherhood started to appear. So then you look at these reels curated and you start to think, why don't I have it together? Not realizing that people aren't showing the messy side.
Completely.
And then we compare ourselves, and that's just the worst thing.
Completely. This has got to be one of the hardest times to arrive in new motherhood. And I talk a lot about, being a millennial. I am a millennial, and, the people who come afterwards as well. We're arriving at motherhood in this digital age. As millennials, we are considered digital natives. We grew up with social media, and by the time we landed in motherhood, we landed in this very curated version of it. We were kind of straddling two different, realities, this kind of isolated real life version where, like you say, you're alone, maybe in an apartment, your partner's working, you haven't got this huge network of people in your life. And then you've got this other reality in your pocket, which is the highlight reels. It's the beige outfits. I saw so many of them when I was a first-time mum. The cute matching sets, the coffee dates, the, hashtag blessed, this is my whole world. It just looked so wholesome. And that's what I wanted. I saw the wholesome and I was like, oh, I want that so badly. And I was such a perfectionist. And that's kind of what I was striving for. But my reality just didn't measure up to that. And so I was in this like liminal space again and just didn't know where to turn or who to look to because I had no one.
So what happened then for you when you were in this liminal space, looking at social media? Talk us through your days and your mental health state and what was going on for you.
It was a really lonely space. Like being a first-time mum, I was the first of my group of friends to become a mum. So I didn't even have that kind of close friendship group to kind of lean on with similar experiences. And of course, I felt I'd changed overnight, like I'd had a personality transplant, and suddenly I just didn't feel like myself at all. My husband was working, my mum was living in a different country at the time, and I just felt like I didn't have that network around me. So I leaned very much into social media, just, I spent very quiet days scrolling through this very curated space, in my head going through a checklist of all of the things I thought I was supposed to be doing, like baby sensory, baby massage, baby yoga, like name it, I was doing it. I was busier than when I was like working full time. Suddenly I had a packed schedule. The full week was, one class this day, the next day another class.
And you thought that was being a good mother?
That was me being a good mom, like ticking all the boxes, making sure my baby had everything he needed for his development. I didn't want to be falling short. And so I was doing all of the things, rushing and racing around. And I was, I think 10 or 12 weeks in, I hit burnout. I just burnt out. And I remember the day, I can sort of smile about it now, but at the time it felt like the worst thing ever. He was quite a fussy baby, which was also another kind of point of stress for me. I'd rush and race to get to these classes and look around and all the other mums are like clapping and singing and interacting with these babies. Mine just screamed. He didn't want to be put down. It was like the noise was too much, the temperature was too much, nothing was right for him. But there was this one day I was rushing to get to a baby sensory class and he was fussing and crying, so we were late. I got him in the car, reversed off my driveway and reversed straight into a parked car on the other side of the road. And No one was in the car. No one was hurt, thank God, because I was just sort of reversing off. But it was like a real moment, like a wake-up call, like, this is a warning sign. I'm trying to do too many things. I'm trying too hard. This isn't how it's supposed to be. I don't care if, in my head, I think these are the things I should be doing for my baby. This just can't be it. My mental health was at a low. I felt really isolated. Social media was kind of feeding those feelings for me. And I decided enough was enough. And I literally cancelled everything. I cancelled every single class. I cancelled everything that I had booked in with him. Because, you book these big blocks of massage and sensory and all that. I cancelled them all. And I decided that the only thing I was going to do every single day was go out for a walk. Like rain or shine, whatever the weather, I would put that baby in a carrier, which, I was doing a daily walk anyway because we had a dog. But that's it. That was going to be my non-negotiable because that was what was right for me. And actually for him, he was the calmest. Like he hated the baby sensory classes, and get him in a carrier, get out, in the fresh air in the woods. Suddenly he was like calm and regulated and looking around. And I was like, this is the baby sensory. This is sensory. Looking at the trees and the colors and listening to the sounds. And he's nearly 7 and he's an absolute nature, like a wildling. He basically would live outside. He says he wants to live in the wild. But that changed everything. Just that like grounding in and returning to what felt really good for me. Simplify and get rid of all of the excess noise. I stepped away from social media, kind of really dialed that back and just focused on, things in my environment that I could lean on for myself. And just started verbalizing as well with the people around me, like to my husband, who just thought, she's got this in the bag. She's fine. But actually, I wasn't fine. I wasn't fine at all. And so I started being more vocal about that. And that really, really helped. But it was messy. It felt like a real, like a steep, sharp learning curve. I don't know if your experience is, anything similar.
Yeah, what you described was very similar to me in that I did the same thing. I booked out my calendar. I had baby swim, baby sensory, mum dates, soft play. And there was something quite good about having one thing to do a day, because I'd gone from, busy event manager, project managing these huge, large scale events to nothing. So for me, it was really good for my mental health to have one thing a day. But I, like you, had a sensitive child. Juniper is a highly sensitive child. Things, certain fabrics on her skin she doesn't like, being too hot, having too much stimulating. So literally the same story. I'd be in soft play looking at everyone and they're just like, shaking the things. And Juniper's like arching her back the whole time. The only way I can describe my experience of first becoming a mum is it felt like I was forcing things rather than oozing confidence and listening to my instincts. So even when she would be on the nappy changer, I would think like I'd have to go, and constantly entertain and read her books, at newborn age, and put her down on the play mat and do things. And if I wasn't engaging with her, I'd feel guilty. So there was this kind of forced feeling. I wasn't just being myself. It wasn't effortless. But then slowly but surely over my experience of becoming a mum, I slowly started to trust myself. And I can say now, being a mum for all this time, I've got a second child and a third on the way, is I truly just trust myself and I feel at home with motherhood, which has, made me want to have another one, because I'm like, I can do this now. For all my London and city mums, I know just how important it is to find a buggy that actually fits your lifestyle. Something that you can get on the bus or squeeze onto the tube without stressing. And that's exactly why I am obsessed with the Bugaboo Dragonfly. It can fold down with one hand while using both the carry cot and seat, so no need to remove them. This is so helpful when you're holding the baby or juggling a bag, which you so often are, right? It is such a game changer if space is tight or you're always on the go and don't want to compromise on comfort. If you're looking for the perfect city pushchair, definitely check out the show notes or the Bugaboo website for more on the Bugaboo Dragonfly and the full range of incredible products made to move with you and your little one. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about motherhood as a capacity building exercise. and how reframing things like the newborn trenches and what you went through in the identity crisis as rich soil for growth as a human being.
Completely.
Because I think otherwise it can be really dire and awful, and you can look at that whole period as a crisis. And in some ways it is. You have a crisis of confidence, a crisis in your identity. But when these things happen, you are growing. You're going to be a new version of yourself, but you need to shred those old layers to feel that tension, to then grow and be you. I don't know anyone who gets through motherhood just really smoothly and effortlessly without masking. So that reframe for me is so healthy, because you would feel way more peaceful in your experience had someone really said to you, look, this is going to be so hard. You're going to experience things you've never experienced before. You're going to feel like you're cracking open as a person, but my goodness, just you wait till you come out the other side. But there's no way other than through. Then
that's it.
Do you know what I mean? You're less
Completely.
isolated. You know that this is fundamental human character building event.
Someone once said to me, motherhood, the word she used was, it's been a deconstruction. And I thought that was like the best word I'd ever heard for
Love
it, because it is a tearing down, it's a picking apart, but it's also a rebuilding after that. And it's wild to me. I can look at pictures of myself from before I had children. And like you just said, I'm like looking at a different person. Like now I just feel like,
who were you before children and who are you now?
I was a high achieving, I was perfectionist. I mean, I'm still very much like unlearning perfectionism. I think that's a very hard one to overcome in lots of ways. But I was very performative, which I think is what I then took into that new motherhood. It was a performance. It was like, right, tell me what I need to do and I will do it. Looking back now, I see so many like performative aspects to what I was doing, like, the just checking boxes. But I was, an academic. I was a lecturer working in the university, and that's a tough environment to work in, because you're dealing with all of these high-flying academics who are very like research oriented. They're very masked. You don't know kind of who they are underneath. And, I would give talks and lectures and hope that the feedback wouldn't be, might be a bit too subjective, that might be a bit too much too conversational, too human almost. It was kind of an inhuman, like, performative mask that I felt I had to wear all the time. Very much took that into motherhood, but motherhood was already peeling that off of my skin, and I just didn't know how to cope with it. But I mean, now that I couldn't think of anything worse than having to dehumanize myself and sanitize my personality in that way again. I feel like motherhood's been the best thing for that unmasking and deconstruction. Like you say, it's so hard. When you're in the thick of that, it does feel so disorienting. But on the other side, there's a newer version of you coming in for landing. And
wow,
it's the closest thing to you that you've probably ever seen. And you're going to have to get comfortable with yourself again. But it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Well, tell me, because you've done it 3 times, do you feel as though you experience the same sort of deconstruction, reconstruction that you did in the first time? Or how does it change in your experience per child? Tell us, like, your second child and your first child, what happened to you as a person?
I always think my 3 children have brought different lessons for me. Like, my first child was very much about you can't control everything, and that was a lot of my issue as well. So I wanted to just control and manage everything about my experience and his development, and I very much saw myself as the author of this whole experience. But it's an experience that almost happens to you in lots of ways. You don't create or manage it, a bit like birth. And so my first child very much taught me about control and letting go. It was safe to let go. My second child kind of built on that lesson, and that, it's okay not only to let go a bit, but trust yourself. And so similar to you in your journey in your second, like that trust that you build in yourself, it doesn't happen overnight. And especially if you're someone who's so used to like gripping tightly on everything and you just want to know what's going to happen next. my first experience was just about like just loosening my grip a bit on that. And my second child was, it's safe. It's safe for you to trust that you know what you're doing. Like, you've got this. And then my third was like just deepening into that completely, not just trusting, but really rooting into who I am. I think over the last year, I would say I'd really rooted in.
So each time you're still transforming, but surely not in the same sort of wild way as the first.
No, because there is that foundation, I think, that you do build.
And then you have more confidence, don't you?
And then you have more confidence. You're not
and
questioning.
in the third, do you have even more confidence? Please give me hope.
The third raises themselves. They're just...
Oh, really? Is it a piece of piss?
I mean, in comparison to that first, there's just no comparison.
But don't you also think child's temperament?
I was just about to say that makes a massive difference. Like, I mean, I was saying to you before, and I do say this on my Instagram quite openly, we're a very neurodivergent household. There are more than one of us. In this house, there are neurodivergent, and likely all three of my children are. So we all have intensities about us. And my transition from 1 to 2, it wasn't the easy experience that I know a lot of people have. And I get messages about this all the time. Like, I was expecting like an easier shift when I had that second baby, but actually it's been tricky in lots of ways because of the temperament of my first. And I was like, I so relate to that. It was a messy experience because we were managing and still learning about his needs at that point, because he was only 2. And, you know, when they can't like verbalize fully what the problem is and can't understand when you need them to do something, they just don't get it. So that was tricky for me. But I know that that's not everybody's story, going from 1 to 2. 2 to 3 has been the easiest transition by far. Yes, by far. Oh my God. It's literally like, it's been a breeze. I mean, 3 is a lot. Like 3 is my friend.
Hands full.
It's hands full. Like, my friend who's got 4 children describes 3 children as being peak chaos levels. And I have to say...
And 4 easier. Some people say that.
Yes, she says that. She says 4 is easier. Because with 3, there's like, you know, when you've got 2, you've got 1 each as parents. You're kind of juggling. You're in this juggling act. Then you've got 3rd and you're literally like juggling between these 3, you know.
Yeah. My other friend with 3, she said, oh, there's always one left out.
Yeah, there's always one. I mean, in my house, there's always one crying. There's always one like
someone's doing something,
needing something. Like, that it's chaos. My house is chaos.
But I kind of get, I don't know, you get used to it a weird way, and then you're like, you quite like it.
Yeah, like when they're out of the house, I'm like, this is a bit unnerving. There's always something going on. But that transition from 2 to 3 was smooth sailing, I have to say. Smooth sailing. So let's hope.
Fingers crossed. One of the things that I experienced with Olivia, because you know how fast time goes with the first, like I have this feeling where I'm like, I don't want to miss anything. Like, I don't want, as much as possible, I don't want to miss anything. But with my first, I actually sent her to nursery when she was 15 months for 3 mornings a week. And, you know, sent her in kicking and screaming, and everyone's got different lifestyles and needs. And, you know, this is no judgment to the nursery debate, of course. But I think for me, that went on too long. And I just thought that that's what everyone did and it was normal. With Olivia, I just won't do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to. And I will make sacrifices to ensure and make different decisions so that she doesn't have that experience. You can absolutely find a childcare solution that the child thrives in. Do you know what I mean? You almost become more decisive, more intuitive, and you know, like, what's normal and what's not, in a way that when you're with your first, it's kind of like a bit of a test run.
Yeah, and what you've just picked up on, you become more boundaried. You become more like, no, this is my hard line. This is what I'm not prepared to be flexible around. Like, this is important to me, and you know, that's just my value, and it might not match up with everyone's, and that's okay, but this is where I draw the line. That takes some learning, doesn't it? Like, it takes that experience with your first to know where your boundary is. So I think we're so hard on ourselves when we look back, and I am on myself sometimes when I look back at, you know, the things I went through with my firstborn. I'm like, oh, why did I do that? But it's such a learning process. You don't know where the line is. You don't know where your boundary is until you meet it. It's like me with the baby classes. I've never done one since. You feel like you want to make the most, and this is another narrative I see on social media all the time. Make the most of it. You only get 18 summers. Enjoy it whilst it lasts.
Gosh.
Or the ones that are like, picture this, it's 20 years in the future and there are no toys on the floor and there are no crumbs.
It's so guilt driven. Like, but have you not noticed as well, old people say it? Old people are like, oh, it goes by in a blink. And I'm like, I'm sure it does, but right now I'm really suffering and I'm finding it hard, and it's okay to find it hard.
Literally. There's just, that is the narrative that's peddled. And I think it's so guilt inducing as well, because we can't enjoy every moment. We don't enjoy every moment because we're human beings, and having, a child scream in our face is not enjoyable.
It's hard, But I also think that we should be allowed to say the things that we're struggling with without being told it's going to go by in a blink, enjoy it while it lasts. All of those cliches. And we know that when we look back on things, we have rose-tinted glasses. So those people that have raised children will look back on those brilliant things and won't remember the intensity of it all. Yeah. So I actually have been thinking about writing myself a letter about how I'm experiencing motherhood, to remind myself that I've done a good job, because I worry that for some reason, I don't know why, I've just got this terrible, terrible feeling that in the future I'm going to look back and have things that I regret, and I don't know where it's come from. Maybe it's because I run my own business and it's always a juggle. And like at one point, to make myself not feel guilty, I said to myself, I will only work when my children sleep. With Juniper, I spent 15 months straight with her. With Olivia, I have help 2 mornings a week only. So, the way that I thought is, obviously I've got the 2 mornings and then work when she sleeps. That way I will know that I never took time away from her. And it's like, what kind of pressure is that? So anyway, I spoke to my husband about this, and he was like, you do so amazing, that you're so good at balancing everything, whatever. And I said, that's really nice, that's really reassuring, but I think I need to write myself a letter so that I don't suddenly think that I didn't do a good job. Do you know what I mean? Anyway.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. And, I totally get it. Like, as someone who's running their own business, you've got these kids,
your own business,
they think a lot of it is just internalized from what we've been told. Enjoy it while it lasts. It goes by way too quick. Before you know it, you hear that a lot. Before you know it, and then it's like the next milestone. I think it's really important that our children see us as human beings. I really wholeheartedly believe in that. I don't hide anything from them. If I'm tired, if I've had enough, I'm having a hard time, I'll verbalize that to them. If they verbalize it back to me, I think I'm giving them a permission slip not to love things all the time. If I say, look, I'm having a hard time with that noise, there's something about that that's really upsetting me. They'll say the same thing back to me. Oh, mummy, that thing that's really upsetting me. But I think like them seeing you do something that you really enjoy, I think is really important. And I remember reading about the 7 different types of rest, and one of them is called creative rest, where you actually recharge. Oh
my gosh, that's amazing. That's what happens to me. Like, this conversation today will improve my day.
Oh my God, same. And everyone who says to me, oh my God, what a shame that you have to work when your kids are so little. I'm like, no, that's my creative rest. Like, you don't understand. I'm recharged by engaging in a creative outlet. And that makes me better for them. Like, if I can't do things like this, I show up as a rattier version of myself because I've not had that need for that kind of rest that's been met. And so I don't feel guilty about like not being available every single hour of the day to them, because I'm getting what I need and then they get what they need, because I've got my, I've got exactly.
You come back whole. You're so less whole. Ratty. Yeah, your needs are being met.
Completely. So I think it's really important, but the make the most of it, enjoy it whilst it lasts narrative is so damaging, I think, for so many mums. And I hate to see it just perpetuated on social media. Like, it's setting this really high, unrealistic bar, which says you got to love every single moment because it goes by way too quickly. Sometimes it doesn't go by quick enough because, let's be honest.
Yeah. And you know what? It's okay for things to pass. Like, this whole idea of gripping things, life is constant change. That's the one thing that we can guarantee, and that's okay. Seasons change, and yeah, just making peace with that instead of looking back and going, oh, I wish I enjoyed it more, I wish it was like this. No, just let it pass.
Yeah, but I think it's such a privilege as well to be able to have that fullness, that rich experience of like, you know, complete and utter joy and just gratitude that makes you feel like your heart's literally like exploding out of your chest. And also to sit in the pits of like the darkness and the discomfort and like, you know, the sadness. I think to be that kind of like multi-dimensional complex person is such a gift because we get that contrast. We're not supposed to have this very flat experience of enjoyment throughout our life. It's supposed to like ebb and flow, and there's supposed to be texture to this thing.
Yes, and some people's ebbs and flows will be more extreme. Like my husband has a very steady baseline emotional. Yeah, I'm like, bloody hell. But
I'm like,
yeah, but we have a superpower because do you know how good it is when you feel great? Like it's God. Like high as a kite and then low. Like I actually have become so familiar with my patterns that when I'm feeling terribly low, I have this feeling of, don't worry, like I know what's around the corner. I'm going to bounce back up. Just coming back to your thing about showing children emotion. If I'm PMSing, sometimes I know I need to cry. And I don't need a reason to cry, but I know I need that emotional release. Yeah. So I'll lie flat and I don't care who's around, Olivia, Jude's, whatever. And I'll just allow the tears to come and I'll feel them on the sides of my cheeks, just dropping down. And Junes will sometimes walk in and go, what are you doing, mummy? And I'll just say, I'm just releasing, I'm crying. And then I explain that the cortisol and all the stress hormones are released from the tears. Yeah. And then she'll just see them like sometimes puddles. Sometimes I need that full release.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like that ability to know what you need to release and come back to yourself.
Oh, completely. But that's such a powerful thing to model to them, you know, not just the releasing, but the awareness of the need to release as well and the acceptance of it. Like my 4-year-old, my middle child will often, if I am having a cry, which I'll do openly in front of them as well, I don't feel the need to hide. She'll come and sit with me and she'll go, it's okay to cry. And like, don't say anything else. Just, it's okay to cry. Like, I'm like, I know. That's why I'm crying.
Oh,
it's
that's
okay.
So good.
We're just going to have a little cry. But, you know, when I was growing up, certainly the message was, don't cry. Come on, stop crying.
Buckle up,
crying.
Chin up.
Yeah. Whereas now all my children say, it's okay. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I think it's such a powerful thing to take forward.
Yeah.
You know, the messiness and the humanness of it, I think is powerful.
I might be a city girl, but I also love escaping into nature and exploring with my gorgeous family. Fresh air and little adventures mean so much to me, and it's really important that my girls get to grow up with those experiences too. That's why it makes such a difference having a buggy that can keep up. The Bugaboo Fox 5 Renew is built for all terrains and is super comfy for baby, so you're not going to need to stress about every bump in the road. Plus, it's really easy to steer. Honestly, it's a buggy you can take anywhere, from city pavements to country walks, and it's now available in forest green with matching accessories. Guys, I am so obsessed. It is gorgeous. So, for naptime strolls, city commutes, or weekend adventures, Bugaboo has a pushchair designed to fit your life. Use the link in the show notes or head over to their website to find out more about the Bugaboo Fox 5 Renew and their whole range of incredible products. Thank you so much for tuning into the Pop That Mama podcast, sponsored by Bugaboo. So for that mum-to-be who's pregnant, navigating all of the, you know, joys of pregnancy and the hardships and everything, but they're thinking ahead of becoming a mum and the experience, what kind of piece of advice, maybe 1 or 2 tips that you have for that woman who's feeling a bit anxious about all of this?
I think the first thing I would say is just it's safe. It's safe for you to let go. You are safe in this process. Like, it can feel so overwhelming not to have, you know, that tight hold over everything, but I promise you are safe to let go. You're safe to, you know, loosen your grip a bit and really lean on whatever support you have. And, you know, we have this idea of our village, right, which we did have in previous times, but sometimes in modern day, your village, it doesn't have to be a village. It can be one person, it can be two people, it can be, that closest person to you who you just feel like you can say things to, and you can, verbalize, I'm not okay. This is really hard. I'm scared. I'm actually really scared. And allowing that for yourself, not trying to, like you were saying, force your way through it, fight forward, push your way through it, like, be and look and do things a certain way. Just allow yourself to experience this in whatever way you experience this. If you're scared, it's okay to be scared. It's scary. It's very scary in lots of ways for people. If you're excited, it's okay to be excited about this as well. I hear the other side of the coin, mums saying they feel guilty because they've had a nice experience or they've really enjoyed that, experience that some of us find tricky, but that's okay. Enjoy it. Like, if enjoyment is the feeling, allow the enjoyment. Just allow whatever comes. And stay connected to your humanness, I think, is really important.
And where can people find you, and what services do you offer? If someone's listening, maybe they're listening and they're in postpartum and they're like, do you know what, I feel like I need a bit of support. Where are you? Where can people find you, and what do you do?
So I'm primarily on Instagram. I'm on TikTok as well, but sometimes forgetting about that app, I must be honest. The username is I am Dr. Tuesday. And there you will find me kind of sharing my own messy realities of motherhood, but with a dash of psychological insight thrown in for good measure. Because I think it helps people seeing those two things come together. But not in a top tips package, but in a human kind of package. So I do a lot of that. I do corporate talks and workshops. I do less of the coaching now, the one-on-one. That's kind of taken a little, I've had to turn that down just because of having 3 kids and the logistics. But I do more talks and workshops, that kind of thing at the moment. And I write, so I share my work in that way. But Instagram is the best place to connect with me. And if anyone wants to reach out with worries or concerns, I know where to signpost you, and I can lend a listening ear.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Tuesday.
Thanks for
Brilliant
having me.
to have you on.
Love this chat.